we want to acquire you guys, because they saw that if they brought us in, it would best fit the model that they have and the vision they have. And they acquired us for $166 million.
Welcome to Bigger Than the Hustle podcast, where I bring you real conversations with entrepreneurs on how they live their lives outside their business. We deep dive into the energies, the mindsets, the disciplines, habits, and the motivations that make them successful in their life, which in turn leads to success in their business. Now, today we've got a super interesting guest with me because we're going international. It's the first international guest we've had on. We're going stateside to America, to Texas, and it's Shak Patel, or Shak. He's on the other side, and he's got a super interesting story especially for entrepreneurs that believe, they have an idea and they want to grow a business out of it, and what possibilities they didn't see in the first place actually happen just by starting to walk on that journey. So without further ado, hi Shak.
Hey Mike, how's it going?
Yeah, not bad. Are you good?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Not at all, man. So just going to hand the mic over to you. So if you can give a brief introduction into you, and then we can start the conversation from there.
Yeah. Hi. So I go by Shak Patel, but mostly everybody in the U.S. and in Zambia now call me Shak Patel. I'm originally from Zambia. I am married to Bhavik's cousin, so that's how I know Bhavik. I came into the U.S. I came to the U.S. When I was 17, close to like 23 years ago. And so I did my bachelor's, my master's, and then went through the whole H-1B process, which was probably the most stressful part of being in this country, because I was at the verge of also having to go back, but I found the job, and then I've been I have a software degree and software business master's. And then I worked for various companies, SAP, one of them, the German company, a couple of startups, and which then got me focused into figuring out what I want to do in the long run.
Perfect. Okay, so now, I want to sort of jump right into the entrepreneurial side of things, right? So originally, like you said, you came over from Zambia. So you're not American born, you came over to America, right, when you were young? You did your education, and then you started your working journey, if you say, through organizations, company. You then learned a bit in terms of your knowledge and your experience in terms of software, and then you sort of tread the path less tread in terms of setting up your own startup with another person, with a friend of yours. Now, if you can tell me a little bit about your journey from just before you started your business, in terms of sort of what made you believe that this was possible, that you could get on your own. Because there's a lot of people that listen that have ideas that almost the idea just sits in their head and they never roll with it, and then think back, maybe I should have done that. What was the energy that led you to actually moving into that path in terms of moving from organization to setting up your own business, and what that journey was like? If you can just go into a little bit about that.
Yeah. So for me, it's a bit interesting. So when I graduated from my master's program, I didn't have any experience and experience was required for sure. When companies want to hire you here, and at the same time, it was 2005, so there was a bit of dip in the market at that time around here. But I bumped into the recruiting company, got me, introduced me to this guy called Steve Elliott. And we talked, and, he knew that I didn't have any experience. I completely failed the technical interview with one of his colleagues who interviewed me. And then he called me later after a few days and says, "Hey, you really bombed that technical interview." I was like, but he's like, "You know what?" He's like, "I'm going to give you a shot because I think you're going to work hard." And so that was my entrance, right? And getting to know Steve Elliott and Steve as a person. And so we worked for a year, and then for the startup that we were both at. And then he left to another company, and that startup got acquired by SAP, and I left to go to the Bay Area, California, to work for SAP. And I had to stay with the company because I was stuck. I was on my H1 through the company, so it was hard to kind of shift companies. And
what is just before you carry on, what's H1? Is that like a visa?
Yeah, H1 visa is a work visa in the US, and it's once you get it, you have 3 years, and you have to keep on renewing it, and then you do your green card process and all that stuff. But the company has to sponsor you, and so.
Yeah.
So then I went to California, and I was there for a year and a half, and that kind of opened up my eyes to a lot. Being in the Bay Area and being right in the middle of Silicon Valley, you just see all these startups coming up, and you kind of get the feel of it, right? But that even that didn't kind of give me much. The only thing is that, growing up in Zambia, our dads never worked for anybody. They had their own businesses. And so, that also was on my mindset that one day I want to have my own business. Doesn't matter what. It could be a liquor store, it could be a hotel, motel, right? Gas station, but I want to have my own business, right? And so that was always in my mind. But when I was in California, then I got my green card. So thanks to Pretty, right? And then just a few weeks after that, Steve called me. He was like, "Hey, I have this idea that I'm working on. Do you want to come help me with this?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." So it wasn't like we were going to start a company or anything. It was just like he was a CTO of a mid-sized company and he had like a couple of hundred people reporting to him, like developers and QA. Like the software department was reporting to him, and he wanted something. He didn't have budget for it, so he wanted to just build something in-house that can help him manage that and have someone help him manage that. And so he called me, and I gave my 2 weeks notice. And in this period of time that all this happened, just the next day after that, like after I gave my resignation, I get a call from India that my dad is on stage 4 cancer.
Wow.
So, and he has 3 months left, right? So I called Steve and I'm like, "Hey, I don't think I can come help you right now with this, and he's like, "Don't worry, go to India, be with your parents, sort everything out, come back, and we'll start." And I said, "That's going to be 3 to 5 months out, right?" Because I dropped everything and went to India, and he's like, "That's fine." So that over there was that whatever we do, whether I work for somebody or whether we start something, this is a person I want to be with, from a career-wise, right? Because I can go to work every day and be happy and have, and just have a good friend at work too, right? So that was one of the things that whatever happens, I want to be with Steve on any projects we work on, whatever it is, right? So, went to India, went through that process, came back, and then we started working on this little tool that helped manage software teams and help software teams. They used it as well to get their work done and all that stuff, like to tracking work and all that. And one thing Steve did is, because we did this on nights and weekends, and it was more of a passion, right? It's like, instead of going to a pub or instead of going to play golf, let's just write code and let's just hang out and have fun, right? Because we had that friendship, so it was just hanging out with a friend and writing code, right? Like hanging out with friends and playing poker.
Of course. That's right.
So, and we were passionate about it, right? Because, we started seeing a difference with the teams that were using it in our company, and we worked on this nights and weekends, and it wasn't on the company's dime per se, right? And we also had an agreement with the company and there was a startup company, so we had an agreement that this is our software, nothing to do with you guys, right? Because usually when you write software in-house while you're employed, it ends up becoming their software. And we use our own personal laptops, so it's important. You want to use your own laptops, own anything, because anything you kind of build on a company laptop, it is theirs. So
the IP becomes theirs, right?
So you want to make, exactly. So you may, never touch any of company work, company equipment to do any of that stuff.
Yeah.
But we had an agreement signed as well that this is ours. So there was not, they couldn't come back at all. And so then we did that, and then we iterated through 2 other companies with this software. That startup got sold, and that startup actually went downhill. It didn't sell for much, and so even the people invested in it had lost money. And it was one of the eye openers for us. Like, this could happen for startups. So having we joined a startup that was already had like 100 employees and plus, and everything was going great. The sales were doing great, and something happened in the market, and it just started tanking.
Yeah.
And then finally they had to fire sale, right? So that was kind of an eye opener on startups, and also like scary. Like, man, do we want to ever go through this if we ever have a startup? And we never.
At that point, was it the idea to set something up, or was it just at that stage still just something you were doing to just see how it worked?
Just to see how it worked. There was no concept of opening or starting a company.
Yeah.
It was, we just did it because we had a passion about it, right?
Yeah.
And we had people tell us in the company that we, that while we were there, saying, hey, you guys should start a company and all that. And they're like, yeah, we don't know and all that stuff. No, I don't know.
What was it that was causing the initial, at that point? What was the thing that was, where you were saying, yeah, we've set this up, it's working, but we're still not ready. We're still not sure that this is gonna, we're looking to move this into an actual, come out of this and set this up properly. Where were there sort of things that were still holding you back at that point?
So I think we weren't 100% into this because we still had our day jobs, right? Yeah. So, you want to focus on a business, it has to be 100% in, right? And this was just more like of a project that we were just doing for fun.
Yeah.
And so, after we took this, we did this for 5 years.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
Yeah. So it wasn't like something that happened overnight. It was for 5 years. Yeah. 5 years. Yeah. 5 years that we did this. And then we finally decided that let's quit, and what kind of gave me some backup was obviously my family first, right? Mainly my kaka, my uncle, right? He's like, hey, what's going to happen? Worst case scenario. He's like, I got your back, so that was kind of helpful. Yeah. And the same token, the same level, Priti, has a nursing degree. So I was like, you know what? It's not going to be hard for her, to find a job if we have to move somewhere and she was already working. So I was like, we can live off beans and whatever it is, right? Go back to college days, right? So, there was that ease, right? That there was that, and mainly she was very supportive about it, right? Even though sometimes she was upset about it, but she knew that was what I wanted to do. I enjoyed it, and I think it wasn't like something that I'm going out and clubbing or golfing and just kind of further educating myself with software, right?
Yeah.
So
and I think it's so important, just something you just mentioned. There's a couple of things you mentioned there that just jumped out that I just like to jump into now before I forget. First of all, when your kaka, your uncle said to you, what's the worst that can happen? And it's always true. I think we overcomplicate some decisions. There's some things that if you really sort of cut down to basics, it's not a tough decision. I think we just overthink a lot of things a lot of the time. And until someone says that to us, what's the worst that can happen? We step back and actually you are right. And also your ability to adapt to a situation. So when you're saying, if we have to go back to basics, beans on toast for the next year, it's fine. Because if you're willing to do that, you're not holding on to something that a huge amount of cost or a huge amount of life experience. And I think for you, that comes from coming from Africa as well. So you're not, coming from Africa and having that strong family bond and having that experience of living a life where it's just basics, right? We just live in a basic way and everyone's happy. We don't need this big sort of like the big cars, the big houses and the big costs, because we know it's just about us as people. And then having your wife support you in a decision because she knows that's what you want, I think that's huge as well, in terms of relationships around you. So those things combined, I think, equated to you being able to say, actually, do you know what, I'm going to give this a go. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. We know we're smart enough to try again and try something else, right? And I think that combination of things really allowed you to move into that direction, right?
Yeah, no, totally. And so, one of the things, like people over here would say like, hey, but what about healthcare? Now, healthcare is not free here,
okay,
like how it is over there, right? You have to pay up for medical insurance and could range anywhere from $600 to $1,500 a month.
Wow.
Right?
Okay.
And so, and based on the quality of the healthcare, right?
Right.
You want to at least be in the medium of it, and so it's like, what about healthcare? You're going to lose all the benefits and but those are all minor things. I mean, if you get sick, hospital still has to take you, right? I mean, they're not going to leave you at the front of the door and whatnot, right? But you kind of have to put all the, I don't want to say negativity, but just try to get, you have to focus more on like, forget all that, right? I'm just gonna focus on this. Otherwise, you'll always be stuck in that mindset, right?
It's that fear. It's the fear mindset. That's what you're talking about, right? It's that saying. I think because the way our brains are designed is trying to keep us safe, right? So the questions are valid questions in terms of what about healthcare, what about security, and all these things, because these are things the way the brain is designed to keep us safe. But very few people can think in the way you have and the way I have, which is, I'll open that door and what if? So what if it's actually better than what I'm sitting in right now? But it's that opportunist mindset. It's that positive mindset to say, actually, I'm just going to give it a go. And I know we'll always be all right. It's that saying, we'll always be okay, because there's people around us. There's things around us that are always going to help us, irrespective. And that's like our security blanket, right? It's like we're walking the tightrope and we've got security net under. So even if we fall, there's a whole load of hands to catch us and pick us back up and get us up on the rope, right? And I know a lot of people don't have that. We are really blessed and we are really lucky we have people around us, you as well, and me, that we know we're not going to fall too far. Even if, shit hits the fan and everything balls up, we're not going that far because there's so many good people around us, right?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, it's, whatever I did was always like, I never got any negative feedback from anyone in my family, right? Mm-hmm. And that includes, Kriti's side of the family, right? Her dad was super supportive, right? It wasn't that, and so there was support from every angle, right? Mm-hmm. So it just made things easier. So we were right at that stage in 2011, I think. And we were like, all right, let's figure out what we want to do. And so, and then 2013 came, and we are now 5 years in, and we're like, all right, let's quit. So Steve quit his job first, or quit his role, and we just had our daughter, right? So I was like, okay, wow. give me a couple of months, right? And give me a couple of months, right? Because the fear came in, right?
Of course.
Right, the fear came in, and but we still, even though I said give me a couple months, we still did this nights and weekends. So it wasn't like, I still had the day, and then in a couple of months, the fear just had to go away. I mean, you had to kind of flush it out, and I was like, I quit, and we both started this, right? So, and then comes the, so the important thing, just to note over here is, so obviously there's no income. We don't have any revenue coming. We had we had a small company paying us. So that money that company was paying us actually went into my pockets. And the reason being is Steve was like, you know what, I don't want you stressed, because if you're stressed, you're not going to be able to perform.
Yeah, you're
right?
not going to be productive, right?
Right. So I was like, no, I think I'm okay. He's like, well, we'll sort you out. And so he was on a zero salary and I was on somewhat of a salary, right? And so that's what we were doing is, he didn't have kids and I had Zara and we just still going through all this and whatnot, right? So that was kind of helpful. But so and then slowly we got a couple of more customers. Now the thing here was the hours. So one of the things is, during this time I asked a couple of my friends, like, hey, we just started this startup. It sounds cool. Everyone's like, oh, you got a startup and you're doing the startup. Like, yeah, hey, you guys interested in helping, joining, part-time, whatever, right? Because we need help, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, but no one wanted to quit their jobs. And I was like, okay, that's fine. But, you can help me from anywhere from 9 o'clock in the evening till 1:30, 2 in the morning or 3 in the morning, but no one was up for it. Like, even some of my close friends were not up for it, right? And I really felt that I was trying to make sure that they were part of it, because they weren't. And though a couple of things opened up my eyes in that process is that whoever now we hire and start building our team, I have a lot of friends in the software business, right, in the industry, and I was like, if I pick them, are they going to kick ass and work hard, or is it just because they want equity or they want stock, or And I was like, that's not going to be. It's going to be not a good chemistry at all,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And so that was because usually when you start a company, like, hey, join me, right? And you start getting all your friends involved, and you lose distraction, and then and so it was, our next goal was, we raised money. We got some funding from during the next couple of years, we got 2 offers, right? We got a $1 million offer, a $3 million offer, actually 3, yeah, and then we got a $11 million offer.
How far was this into actually setting up?
We were just a year in at that time.
Wow.
But there was we were making a huge impact on big clients, and we were stealing away clients from this one big company called Rally, and they got acquired by CA, Computer Associates. They're big companies over here, right? And I think it was making a big difference to them when we got into the market, because we were a small company, 2 of us. We wrote the code, so we could shape our code any way a customer wanted.
Yeah.
Our code, company was called Agilecraft, and it basically helps companies scale. So it wasn't like a custom code that this company needs to do this. So it was software that helped companies go through the agile transformation and help them scale. So just a quick overview of the company. Basically, you have a company like AT&T or big companies like Boeing, whatnot, right? And they have thousands of developers and hundreds of teams. And how do you roll up all that data that they are working on, right? And what they're working on from a financial perspective, progress, and all that, all the way to the top, right? To like executives, to your portfolio managers, right? Like all the to the management level, right? And also let the teams over there better manage the way they do their work, right? So we had to, it's all about scaling up. And so that's what our software helps with.
Right.
And so every company has a different process, and we were able to customize it and do it for them. And that kind of helped us with getting deals.
Yeah.
But we backed out of all of those 3 offers, and we got funding eventually through through some connection that we knew of, and they gave us $11 million for, and they took some equity of the company, quite a bit of equity, but we needed it, and they took that, and we took that money, and we started growing the company. First thing was, who do we want to hire? We had already a list the day we started.
Because was it still just two of you at that point?
It was we just got Rick, who came in. And
so three of you, in effect.
Yeah, he was our third co-founder. He came in, but he was more of a sales background, and we needed him with his sales and management background, right, to come join us. Whenever we initially did that, equity is something you want to make sure that if try not to be like, well, if you know that you really need somebody, be flexible on giving equity, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to kind of hold back on something unless you think you have it covered. But, we needed Rick to come help us with a lot of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he wanted equity, and quite a bit of equity, and we had to issue that out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it worked out for us, right?
So do you know the equity thing, just going back, because obviously this is UK, right? And in UK, it's a little bit different. So the equity part we get, that you give a percentage of your company for coming, as well as, a wage. Here it's more a case of a wage, and you might get some share options, etc. if it's a bigger organization. But generally in startup, it's more financial. How much can you pay me, or how much do you pay, or is it based on hours and stuff? So the equity side, I know in America, is huge. It's a lot of startups talk about equity because they don't have so much money, but they have a company that may be valued one day at a huge amount. So the equity is a potential, right? It's the potential of what is possible. So in the US, is that still a key conversation with a lot of people joining startups in terms of equity?
It is, and it's not only startups now.
Oh, really? Okay.
If you join, if you join companies like Google or, all these, Netflix, any of that, they usually give you, I don't know exactly how much, but I'll give you a range that they can give you anywhere from $100,000 to $150,000 to $200,000 of stock. But that is vested over 4 years.
Yeah.
So they don't give it to you the first day, right?
Right.
So 1 year you get 25%, and then the next every year you get 25%.
Right.
So and so they do that. With startups, you get much more. There's no value in the equity, but
exactly.
But there is. If it does become, it's going to be
potential,
more
right?
than
Potential, right?
Yeah. And so it's always a good topic to negotiate on if you're joining a startup. Like, hey, about equity and also we've had people when we interviewed that they would take a lower salary and more equity. So that's something you can also negotiate on, right? Okay, let's tell you about one more equity. So then we got our, we already knew the day we started the company, we had already a list of people that we wanted to hire. And so we, the day we got all that money, we sent out the offer letters, built up the company, so from 3 people, and then by the end of the year, we were 45 plus people.
Wow.
And
what was the key difference? So let's talk about that growth part, right? So you've gone from 2 to 3 people, and now you're at 45. So are you still doing the same thing that you were doing originally, or have you now become human resources in terms of managing people?
No, I'm still doing, personally myself.
Yeah.
I was still doing the same thing. I was running the engineering department, so I was doing the same thing. We hired a manager to help me with the management of the team, because we had we had 40 people in the US, 45 in the US, and then we had another 25, 30 in the Ukraine. And so we had outsourced our software development there as well. So we needed someone to help manage that, and so
Okay. And when you got venture capital funding and they took equity part of your company, was that then was that in effect being bought out? Was that just money they put into you and you just carry on running the business as it is?
Basically they gave us the $11 million for running the company, for using to run the company, right? It wasn't like put in your pockets.
Yeah.
Because, here's money, this is what you're going to use to hire people, this is what you're going to use to set up an office, set up whatever, right? And so that was our runway to grow.
And then at what point then did it go talk into the sort of acquiring, in terms of acquisition? So at what stage did that happen then? So
fast forward 5 years after that, right? Now we're in 2019. We wanted to again grow. So we were looking wanted to grow. And from where we had valuated ourselves when we first started at 16 million, now we're sitting at $100 million valuation.
Right. Okay. Right.
And so we started talking to VC firms, more other VC firms, right? And VC firms that had backed Google and Amazon,
the bigger ones,
those in the Bay Area ones, right? And those are ones that had also shown interest. Not that we're going to do it, but they'd shown interest. And in the meantime, Atlassian came in the picture. That's the company that then said that we want to acquire you guys, because they saw that if they brought us in, it would best fit the model that they have and the vision they have. One of the key things that, so then Atlassian acquired us, and they acquired us for $166 million. And in that process, one of the things that also attracted Atlassian is the values. So we had 5 values that we would go by, and they also had 5 values, right? From just like, kicking ass. Yeah. Don't. One of their values is don't fuck the customer. Literally, it's the public thing. And just values like that, and they kind of just matched our values too. Yeah. Because that's during the acquisition conversations, they said, your values and our values match, and it's very important nowadays to kind of define a key set of values for you and your company and go by that, right? Yeah. And we had our values everywhere in the office, written. So, walking in, you kind of already understand what you're walking into. Yeah.
Perfect. Now, and then obviously from there, now you're part of a bigger organization now. So like you said, you're a section of that bigger player. What are the key differences now with the way you operate to when you were sort of operating before you joined them?
So big company politics, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's there now, right? Initially the first year, it's been a year and a half now since acquisition, but the first year they actually put a do not disturb sign on our department. Okay. Basically meaning that we keep on doing what we're doing. They don't want to disrupt anything, and we just carry on, executing the way we've been executing. Yeah. And then now they're slowly incorporating us. They're going to start splitting us apart, moving the engineering into the right departments and all that stuff, right? And the product teams and the sales team will go differently. And so they kind of started breaking us apart. That kind of sucks because, when we had Agilecraft, we had all 90, I think we were 95, close to 95 people, and now everyone's going away in different departments. You're kind of seeing everyone go away. So like people I used to talk to every day, I kind of talk to once every 3 months now.
Wow.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So that kind of sucks, but it is what it is.
Yeah. And I think something, is something for a lot of people listening out there, just from something when we started talking was, that initial fear of leaving your role, your security, which whatever reasons you had in it, the healthcare, etc. And because you had a bit of backing and you had a bit of support and you had, the energy around you to move into that direction. If someone had said, fast forward 10 years and you're looking at a, 166 million valuation based on an idea right now, and it's just something you're playing with your friend, that's the opportunity that's available to anyone, right? Anyone that has a thought and an idea and something that they believe in, that they can work on and they just enjoy. It's never seen that either. You never saw that in the first, but you can't forward project life, right? You just know, I just enjoy this. I love what I do. I enjoy what we're doing. Let's just roll with it and see what happens, right? And I want to sort of try and put that quite loudly to a lot of people listening, to say, unless you walk through that door, unless you say, I don't know what's going to happen, but potentially, all these things can happen. It's like someone saying to you, Shak, if let's rewind now. So you're sitting here today talking to me, right? Which has been a key number of decisions in your life over the last 10 years to allow you to sit here to have this conversation, talk the way we're talking, right? Now, if you go back, if I put you in this position to say 10 years ago, say at 2000 or 15 years ago, 2005, and say, okay, Shak, this is how your life's going to be. This is what's going to happen. This is what's going to happen. This is, the door's going to open. You're going to, set this company up and you're going to grow and grow and grow, and then you're going to be acquired. And now in 2020, you're going to be part of this huge organization. This is what you can do. At what point would you have said, yeah, I think that's, that sounds about right?
Yeah, I don't think I would have visioned this, right? I mean, because
you can't, right? You just don't.
I mean, it's. I'll tell you one thing, right? That when growing up, education was never on my mind.
Okay.
It was on my parents' mind. It was. I was always about trying to either sell bubble gum at school or or sell something. Like when I was in Zambia, my dad had a bakery, but he had a friend that brought stuff from South Africa. I would come and sell that kind of stuff for him.
Mm-hmm.
I came here and I worked at a gas station. I worked at a motel. So I was like, maybe I want to own a motel one day, and do this, right? And education was never in the thing. But then I knew that in any of this stuff to happen, these businesses, I need money.
Mm-hmm.
You need money, but obviously, if you don't have money to start a hotel or a gas station or whatnot, what do? You go to your mind, right? And all I knew at that time was, okay, I like software, I like writing code, and maybe I can grow into that. But I didn't have a vision of starting a company. I always wanted to. Because whenever you get into the software world, it's like, I want to be like Bill Gates, I want to be like Elon Musk, or something like that. But a lot of us have that in us, right? That we want to be all that, but it's just executing, right?
Yeah. And you
take that one risk.
It's funny you say that, because when you similar thing in terms of your mindset. It's like, because my dad always had a business, from when we were in London, he had a sort of like a newsagent off license type shop. Then we moved to Leicester and he had a home technology business, etc. So his mindset was all we ever saw was he's had his own business. So he's always used his own ideas to create something, right? So, and a lot of my family, so a lot of cousins, etc., have their own businesses like florist, beautician, etc. So there's lots of energy of setting your own up. So I never even really thought of getting a job. My whole thing was, eventually I'll probably have a business. This is when I was studying, going through university and stuff like that. So even when I started working, when I finished studying, I worked for 6 months in an organization. Exactly what you said there about joining a big organization. The thing that really griped me was the politics, in terms of getting on with the right people, speaking the right conversations with the right people, being in someone's corner, not being in someone's corner. And that really annoyed me, because my thing was, I work hard, I get on with people, and I should be rewarded based on that, not because I know someone or because I'm in someone's corner.
Exactly.
Or circle, right? And that's why I only lasted 6 months in corporate. This was when I was 22 years old. And then I said, that's it. I had £500 in my pocket. A friend of mine who was working with, we said, let's just set something up ourselves, because neither of us could do that. And it was almost like, that's it. It was just an idea at that point. I had £500. Let me just set up a little shop, set up a little bit of home technology. I have a bit of experience in that. We learned a bit. And based on that, it was like, so that setting up that little business and then allowed me to buy a property, and then I got married and I bought a house and I bought another business, set up a new one, sold that, set up another outlet, and it just carried on like that. And then it's even now. So if I didn't have my own business now, I just set up another business. Because going into a role or a job now is no option for me. I would say I'm unemployable, because I would be the most annoying employee. Because it was like, I can't, when you just have an idea, you just want to roll with it. When you have your own company, you can do that. I can do that right now. I have an idea, I can roll with it. If I was in a business, I had to then report that to my manager, and then my manager had to tell his manager, and then I had to go to the board and then come back and did it. By that time I'd be bored and I'd think of another idea, right? And I think that's that entrepreneurial mindset where for me if I have something that I want to roll with, I want to roll with it now. I want to just move with it and get on with it, right? And when you then start becoming part of a bigger structure, it doesn't work like that anymore, does it? There's so much more bureaucracy and so many more layers involved, right? So at some point, you're still with this organization, you're still working, you're still growing, you're still doing lots of stuff. What parts do you think you've lost in terms of that initial energy? Now you're part of this big organization. Which parts do you think you've grown as a person being a part of this bigger organization?
Being part of this, of the bigger conversation, I think we've, because we've now got a bigger role in this company, it's more of, there's a lot of maturity that has come with it, right? A lot of awareness, because, the past 7 years when we had the startup, we didn't have HR, right? Human resources. And so that was fun, because, we played pranks on each other. It was, you will walk into work every day smiling, and you leave work every day smiling, right? And you don't have to worry about anything, right? You do have to worry about sales. You have to worry that
money's coming in, right? But that's it.
But it was everyone was happy, right? But now with this bigger company, it's kind of from a maturity point of view, right? Of your career, right? Or your role. That's kind of. Yeah. That's kind of, I think, the positive part as well here. And it's kind of just learning new technology.
Yeah. Another thing you talked about earlier, this is going to sort of flip it and switch it a little bit. You talked about when your organization was bought out by a large organization, you talked about values aligning. And I think values is such a huge conversation in terms of us as people. So when, like you said, when you met Priti, you've known Priti for years. I know you've known her for years, from young, sort of right through to now. And when you decide that you want to be with someone long-term in a relationship, etc., I think that's the conversation, isn't it? Is, do our values align? We might like each other as people, but if our values don't align, I don't think there's a long-term plan then, or a long-term process, is there? If your values align, then irrespective of what happens in life, you'll always be all right, because your thought processes are the same, right? So would you say, anyone who's looking to get married, they're in a long-term relationship and they're looking to get married, what kind of conversation do you think they should be having before deciding, based on what you know about what you've done?
When Priti and I were dating and we decided to get married, one of the things that I kind of encouraged her to do was to do further education, right? And that's when she went and got her nursing degree, right? This was all pre-marriage, right? Get something solid, because I was like, one of the things that, and we had an open conversation about this, was that if tomorrow I'm in the software world, then it's unpredictable world, right? I could have a job, not have a job, be jobless for months, right? Now it's different, but back then, there was, software was.
It's a real conversation, right?
A lot of churning, and I was like, we should definitely have at least one person in the house that can sustain the household. If anything happens to the opposite person, right? Whatever reason, especially, and one of the things, it's like, if you have kids, right, and if something happens to me, and we see that, like, and I die or whatever, right? And, it's not like I have money saved up, and all that stuff. So, I don't want to leave you in a position where you don't have anything or
you're struggling, right?
So, we kind of knew those values, right? Like in the sense, like education was a must, right? For both of us to walk into this, because that kind of takes away the financial burden and the financial stress that, oh my God, what's going to happen, right? And I think the second thing is that when we were dating, she saw that what I was doing, where I would spend out, nightless out, time at night and weekends working on this product, and and just for fun at that time, right? But she saw that that's what I do, and I think she understood as well, right? That's it's very important that you have a backing up, because a number of people that I've worked with who wanted to join couldn't because of their spouse. And they're like, yeah, I don't know, and I was like, are you sure, man? Like, I was like, maybe just work 8 to 5, right? We really require your skill set. Like, I don't know, I know it will end up working weekends sometimes, and I don't think she'll like it, and or he'll like it, or whatever, right? And so a lot of people couldn't do that because of that. I mean, for me, any decision I make, even if I don't consult with Kriti, she still backs me up. So that's kind of, I still consult, but I don't take advantage of it. But I know that she's, even if I have to do something tomorrow, she'll back me up, right? Yeah. I don't have to stress about it.
Yeah. And I think because, like you said, because that trust is there, because she knows that you're making those decisions with the best intention for both of you, right? It's not just because it makes you happy, but it's you both have space. Because I know Priti very well, and she's very straightforward in her, when she thinks something, she'll say it. There's no airs and graces. It's being the oldest, I'm sure because she's the older sister and older brother, she's always had to manage that. So I think she's very, what I like about Priti, she's very clear for, in terms of her communication. If she likes something, she likes it. If she doesn't, she'll say. And it's not, she doesn't hide behind it or think, oh, he's not going to like this, so I'm not going to say it. She says it because it's good for both of you, right? The communication needs to be open for both of you to have a successful relationship between you, right? Because I'm more of a, between me and Vash is more of the talker. I'm more of the sort of listener, and then I'm trying to learn about the communication side of things, because I'm not that great. I sort of expect her to know things as opposed to me saying it and stuff. So I'm trying to improve. I'm a man, really. I know that's a really poor excuse to hide behind, but I'm trying to get better in that way. But I think it's really important. But so, in terms of you as a man, how do you think having Priti as part of your life has created the man that's sitting in front of me today?
Well, I mean, it's, back to where she's just super supportive, right? So it's not only about being supportive, right, as well. It's actually, when, now that we have 2 kids and when we still had the startup, right, I had meetings throughout the early morning all the way to late nights, through dinner times, and she also took care of that. It wasn't like, hey, you got to drop this right now. And, I support you, but you just have to come do this, right? I never had that stress but that kind of started slowly defining some part of me, in the sense where, she took care of that. And now that this COVID times have come and I'm actually at home.
Wow, that's
I'm seeing, the amount of work she puts with the kids, right? And while I'm sitting up here, working away or whatever it is, and she has a school and all that. So, it actually has opened up my eyes a bit as well to
appreciate
it, and actually start kind of helping out quite a bit. It may not be quite a bit for her, but at least for me it's quite a bit, right? And trying to make sure that I'm there for dinners, right? One thing I do regret in all of this is that I should have made time for being available for one meal every day.
Wow. So you were vacant for a lot of the time, right? While
Yeah, just when I come home, kids have been fed or whatever, right? And then, okay. And then usually at the end of the day, kids are already tired, so they're not in a very playful mood. And if they are, it's a tantrum about to kick in, right? So, it's, even though I try to make meals, but I do really wish that it wasn't only with the kids. It was even when we didn't have kids, I should have tried to be available for at least a meal a day. That's a regret that I have.
Okay. But hopefully, you're seeing that. And the first step is always awareness, isn't it? First thing is awareness. And then from awareness, actions can come behind it to change and then say, actually, now this is important to me. So it becomes almost like a non-negotiable, irrespective of what's going on. That's now important to me. And I will make that happen the best way I can all the time, right? So sort of moving forward sort of projecting forward, if you say, what kind of skills do you still need to learn, master, or grow to become the next version of yourself?
So, yeah, I mean, from a career point of view, I think, technology is always evolving. So, just read up on that. But I think the main skill that I need to now is it's like every day I'm learning something new from the kids, a new behavioral character that has just popped up from them, right? How to deal with, a 8-year-old girl, right? Going through, emotions now and all that. So it's like I've actually started, listening to more parent coaching podcasts and reading more about that, right?
Yeah.
And try to focus and try to see how I can be a better parent. I don't think anyone can, it's I don't think I've had anyone ever heard like, hey, I'm the best parent ever, right?
There's no manual, right? There's no user guide.
Right? So it's that's what I'm focused on right now.
And talking about your kids, they are super cute, and obviously they will, like you said, they will grow and they'll start having opinions. Like Kaya now is 14, Kaylin is 9, so they are now people in their own right, if you look at it like that, and almost like them now trying to find their own way. And you're still trying to sort of guide them and support them, but they still try and work a lot of them out themselves, because a lot of the time they don't want to listen to the parents. They want to try their own way, which is cool. And then sometimes they'll have to fall down to stand up. And I'm more of a type to let them fall because that's the way they'll learn and maybe stand up. At some points you try and protect your children, and as parents, that's our natural sort of instinct, like my parents was. But I think I'm more of a protect them to a certain point where it's real danger, but other things just let them try and fail, because I think we learn more when we've tried and maybe isn't the right way, and then we sort of adapt ourselves and try a different way, right? So going forward with your kids, how do you project your parenting style to change as they get older to try and give them space to be and grow into the people they deserve to be?
So, the way when I sit back every evening and I kind of see, like, I usually kind of see what mistakes I've made that day and what I can improve on, right? That's one thing I kind of do every day.
Okay.
Just not necessarily mistakes, if there are any mistakes, but like what can I do to improve myself, right?
Yeah.
I will try at least. Yeah. When I was raised, I still tend to raise my kids the way I was raised, right? We grew up with maybe a bit more discipline, right? Like, just give dads gave us that eye, and then we just all of a sudden just lined up, right? And we're a different generation, we're in a different era, we're in a different country, right? And so it's all different, and there was nothing wrong with the way we were brought, but it's we're in a different situation now, right? And so it's something that I tend to focus on now, is like, how every day is a challenge, but how can I kind of just best improve myself with this, right? So
yeah. And like you said, there's no user manual, is there? There's no instruction guide or an index to pick out, okay, this happened, let me pick this. And as like you said, as a human being, as a man having children, the key word for me, like you said, and you've said it a few times, which is adapting, it's compromising, and it's understanding that at some points I have to come second here because a lot of the time they've not chosen to be here. I'm here to guide them, to support them, and to raise them, but I can only do with what knowledge I have. And that knowledge has to adapt and learn and has to grow through them, right? Like I said, you're seeing them, you're hearing them, you're listening to them and saying, oh yeah, that's actually my child growing. And that's what I probably need to unlearn about my growing up, because although that worked for me, there's so many things that I've maybe adapted that I need to unlearn now to then allow new things to new ways of parenting to grow. Like I said, you're in a different country, you're in a different environment, you're in a different culture, and it's assimilating into that and being a part of that, but trying not to lose the roots as well, isn't it? It's that sort of middle ground, what you're trying to sort of hold on to, correct?
Yeah.
So as we sort of head into the end of this conversation, first of all, I'd like to thank you for everything you've talked about. You've been really honest, and I always knew it's a bit like that. And I've been trying to get you on for so long, so I'm glad that you found the time finally.
No, thank you for having me. Yeah.
No, at all. So it's a couple of things now. So right now, we will project you forward to sort of like another 100 years from now, and you're at the end of your life. You've done everything you've wanted to do. You've outgrown everything that you've wanted. You've had all the experiences. You've seen your kids grow, and you've got great grandchildren now. And everything that you've wanted to do and everything you want to see is done. And now you're sort of on the last moments of your life. You don't have enough energy to speak, but you have a pen and a paper, and you write down 3 words. Those 3 words have helped you in your life up to this point, and hopefully the people that are reading this can take those 3 words away, and maybe it will help the people around you. What would those 3 words be for you?
Grateful, honest, and dedication.
Right. And that comes through in what you say already. Yeah. Can you expand a little bit on each one, just about how it resonates with you?
Yeah, we're grateful, right? And grateful is just, what we have, whether it be a little or a lot, right? That's one thing we enforce and try to teach the kids is be grateful, right? If you don't want to have cereal, like, oh, why do we have to have cereal? Be grateful that at least you have some food to eat, right? And the same thing for us. Like, I'm grateful that I have, good kids and beautiful wife, right? It's just all of that, right? And grateful for a good job, grateful for friends and family, right? So just grateful overall, right? Honest. One thing that I've learned is that we've built, from a career point of view, when we built our startup, the people we built was based, it was, we kind of picked people who had dedication, right? And saw our vision. And so, and they saw our dedication, vice versa, we saw their dedication, right? And that's what kind of built this powerful team to execute, right? It wasn't just, I would never say it was just 2 of us that did this or 3 of us that did this. It was our team that we built. After we built that team is what took us to the next step. Right? Otherwise, there was no way we could have done that, right? So that dedication and just honesty with just life in general, right? I mean, I don't want to go to sleep or I kind of screwed somebody, right? I never would want to sleep like that.
It doesn't sit right with you, right?
Yeah, it doesn't sit right, yeah.
Yeah. Perfect. And now, so this podcast is called Bigger Than the Hustle, and right now you're bigger than the world. So I've sourced this mic, and this mic is connected to 7.58 billion people on this planet. They can hear everything you're saying. They can understand you. There's no language barrier, and they're all awake and they're conscious and they're listening to what you have to say. If I can give you the mic over for 30 seconds, what would your message be to the world?
Hello. Well, I don't know. Work hard. Don't give up. Do one thing a day for yourself, right? Engage in an activity that makes you happy on a soul level, right? Not to say, let me have a beer. That's going to make me happy. No, just more for your inner self.
Nourishing.
Even if it's for a short period of time, take time to listen and remember, right? That's something that wish I would focus more on, and I try to improve myself on, like listen and remember. And everything happens for a reason, and everything is exactly the way it should be, right? And so just take that and it just happens for a reason, right? And take it in a positive direction. And then last thing is we spend most of our days in our jobs. And so, try to do something you love and you're passionate about.
Perfect. And I think if we do that, and if everyone does that, the world will be such a brighter place, right? Because we'll be living our joy and we'll be living in happiness. And that's the way I think all human beings should be living on this planet, because it just creates the energy of a good life for everyone, right? Not just for you, but all the people around you as well, right? So thank you so much, Shak. Thank you. We made this happen finally after months. During this time, I'm so blessed with, having you guys around me. We've been trying to organize a trip for the longest time. It might have to be delayed a little bit longer now, but it is going to happen. We will come across to you guys. I know you've been here a few times already. Hopefully we can arrange, we talked with you about arranging a trip to Zambia as well, and hopefully we can make that happen as well. So yeah. But there's so much more to go, right? There's so much more growing. There's so much more as a family that we need to spend more time, and our kids need to know each other a lot more as well. So, and we're going to make that happen. So thank you so much for your time. Yeah. Thank you for being a part of this. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we go?
I think no, I'm good. Thanks. Yeah, thank you for having this. I mean, I'm glad that you have this. I'm thanking you because it's something that kind of encourages people, and affects people's lives in a positive way with these kind of podcasts, and just kind of seeing other people's lives from a different angle.
And I think I've always done it because to show that, like we talked before we started, that we are just two regular guys, right? We just grew up and we just sort of rolled with ideas, and certain things clicked and certain things didn't. And now we find ourselves in a good place from the decisions we've made in our life, and having the people around us to allow us to make the decisions to live the life we live today, and never to take that for granted. Like you said, be grateful and always be happy for everything around you, because when you have a basis of gratitude, everything else can happen because you're not expecting anything more than what you have. So thank you again for that message at the end. Okay, so as we sort of head into the end, just a quick message for all the listeners. Big ideas, big energy lead to big ideas lead to big thoughts lead to big actions, and big actions lead to a big life. So keep thinking big. Until next time, see you later, and hopefully you tune in. Thanks, bye-bye.